On July 22nd, 1997, Phish played an incredible show in Raleigh, North Carolina at Walnut Creek Amphitheater, including a standout taste as the set one closer. And today we're going to look at two parts from that jam. First, here's part one. And now, part two. Hey, Chris here. Welcome to the lesson. I've got two really awesome sections from this Walnut Creek Taste from 1997. They're incredible. Really, the whole jam is incredible, so I encourage you to listen to it if you're not familiar. It is really magical. But these two sections in particular have some really fun things going on. So first, before breaking everything down, I'm going to play the first section at a nice slow tempo. I'm going to do 50% so you can just see how the whole thing goes, and then we'll do a little breakdown right after that. Now let's break down this first part. So I've broken it down into four smaller sections because there's a lot going on, and hopefully it'll be more digestible that way. We're in like a 6/8 feel, and Trey is doing mostly like D major-ish kind of stuff. Mixolydian is definitely the modal flavor, but we're going to start on the 7th fret of the D string. So let's look at it here. Alright, let's break that down a little bit. I love that he starts out with this really beautiful and simple motif where we're going to hit, if you think of like a D major and like a G shape, you could frame it that way, or like pentatonic, whatever way you want to frame things is all good. But we're on the 7th fret of D, which is the 5th of D. Then we hit E, which is the 9th. I love that. It's so beautiful. And then the 3rd. I've noticed Trey does that kind of thing even on a Harry Hood, where he'll hit the 9th a lot. It's a really pretty sound. At any rate, we're going to do that a couple times. In this next measure, he does this extra little phrase where he adds going up to the fourth here, which is the note G. I don't want to get too in the weeds on the intervals and stuff, but if you hear that part, it leaves it kind of suspended. So it's almost like creating a musical question. And then moving on from there, we go back to the original motif. And then sort of a hybrid of the thing we just did, but then it resolves a little bit. So think of the first half. I'm going to do that whole line again. Think of that first half of what I just did is like the musical question, like a call, and the second half is like a response. So here it is again, the question. And now here's the answer. So awesome. All right, now moving on to the last little piece of this first section. We're going to move positions down 5th fret with the middle finger. And it's going to set up this really cool chromatic thing like that. Then a G major triad. Then slide up 5 to 7. And then this kind of like resolution run. And I'll pause, the end of the first section is right there. But this chromatic thing is really cool. I always, think that a good spot to throw in a little bit of chromaticism is if you have a triad like Trey's doing right here, connecting the 3rd to the 5th is a really cool way to do it. Either direction is really cool. And that's sort of what he's doing here, but he's setting it up first with the 5th fret. And then he does a tritone. It creates this really beautiful tension. If we're still thinking of like a D7, it makes sense. That's the major 3rd of D, the flat 7, and then this line where he slides up and then descends to kind of wrap it up. Picking up from there, we're now into the second section. We're going to pick up on the 4th fret, but it may be a little easier if I include the last note of the previous section because it's the downbeat of the measure. So then we're going to get into the third section. But one of the reasons that I wanted to share this entire section with you guys is to bring attention to really the simplicity of what Trey's doing here. It's just that he's doing it so fast that it seems really complicated. But when you look at these little things he's doing, things like that, just think of how much mileage you can get out of a jam where you're just kind of working a triad like that. Think of all the ways you can do it. Really, he works everything. He does it like this. He does it like this. He does it like this at one point. He hits the major 3rd. He even does it like that. He does like if you imagine like a D7 shape for a dominant chord. He's doing that kind of thing, but just kind of working all those different elements. And then he just leaves little bits of space, and it creates this beautiful movement. And, in the end, though, the stuff it's made of is really simple stuff. So moving on from there, let's keep it going here. And we're going to pick up in the third section on the 5th fret of D string, which is interesting because, again, we're in this D kind of D Mixolydian jam. And so that's the 5th. That's the note G. And we're going to pick up there. So we're going to go like this. See how he switches there, and again. Now 4. Seven of D. Now go to 4 of G. Okay, now this little move is really cool. He's going to go 4, 7, then slide from 7 of D to 9 of D, then a little anchor slide to set up the last little piece here. Now, I thought this part was so cool. He's going to jump to 10 of the E string, which is the note D, and you may expect like a run like this or something like that, or maybe an arpeggio, but what he does is he hits that note and he jumps over the A string completely and does sort of a D mixolydian kind of thing. And just that simple move, skipping the A string, is really cool. It just kind of shakes things up. So again, here from 10 of E, I just love that. I think it's so creative. That's the main thing, is you get a glimpse of just how creative Trey is in the moment. I can't even begin to fathom how he does this stuff on the fly. Let's look at the fourth and last section of this part of the jam that I'm going to share with you guys. So we're going to start on 7th fret of the D string, picking up right where we left off. I'm going to play it first and then I'll give some tips along the way. Okay, that part is just insane, especially the last part. We'll get to that in a second, but first it's this really cool weaving pattern. You could totally turn that thing into like a little exercise and definitely steal little bits of that for your own jamming. But first thing he does is this move, kind of like all the way back to the beginning of the part I'm sharing with you guys. It's like a little piece of that. And then here's this weaving. Slide up, 7, back, 9, back. Okay, then we're going to go 8 of B. This flat 9 is really interesting. This note right here, this E flat or D sharp. That lick starting on the 8th fret of B. It just adds a little bit of spice. Then he slides up with the middle finger and does 9 of G to 8 of B. Then we're going to hit a B flat, which is really cool. We're going to go 9 to 10 of G, 8 of B, slide down, then 8 of G, another chromatic run from the 5th down to the 3rd. And then I love that he ends it with just kind of a more familiar bend. So I love the way that run sounds, especially from a couple measures back. So I'm going to go like 4 measures back from that 8th fret of B. Let me see here. I mean, how cool is that? It's so creative. I hope you're enjoying the lesson. We're going to get right back to it. Just 2 quick announcements for you guys. If you're a fan of the Grateful Dead, you got to check out my Grateful Dead guitar lessons channel I just launched. It's going to be a lot like the stuff I do over here, but just Grateful Dead related, with a real focus on transcribing and teaching both studio and live solos from Jerry Garcia, but then I'll probably get into some other players related to the Grateful Dead. The second thing I'm really excited to announce is that starting in June, I'm going to launch a coaching program called Jam Guitar Gym, and the idea is that instead of it just being a course, it's a 5-day-a-week, month-long guitar boot camp essentially. So there's going to be morning guided practice sessions with myself via Zoom, and I'm going to carve out time at the end for Q&A in case you have any questions. I'm going to show you what to practice, why you should practice it, and how to practice. and then you also get a customized practice plan made just for you. The other thing I'm offering is a really similar idea, but aimed towards transcribing. So if you've ever wanted to be able to hear a song or watch a video of somebody playing and then turn that into tablature with accurate rhythms and notation, you'll love this. You'll just be able to be a fly on the wall watching what I do when I'm prepping for the songs I transcribe for the channel. And again, I'll leave time at the end for Q&A, so if you have any questions about how I did something, why I did it, and so on, you can ask them then. Of course, you can also bundle the sessions together and really kick yourself into high gear for the summer with your playing and your transcribing. You'll also get a ton of freebies if you sign up, like a free 1-month membership to my online course, which includes my Phish and now Grateful Dead library that's added to every week. You'll get a free download of my ebook, that customized practice plan like I mentioned earlier, and much more. So I hope you guys check all that out. Now back to the lesson. Now here's that second whole part of the jam at half speed, so you can just see it all put together, and then we'll break it down right after that. Just like it did with that first part of the jam, how I broke it into 4 different sections, I'm going to do the same thing right here. So let's get right into it. This one has a kind of a different flavor going on in a different position, and it's just an incredible section. So we'll start out here with index on 10 of B. And that'll kind of get us into the next section, but there's a lot going on right there. So let me give you some pointers on what's happening. So the first part is like a classic kind of Mixolydian feel. And then I love this. I mean, that's just a really interesting way to set all that up. I love that Trey just shows us these different things. Like, I know that I would never think of to do in a section like that, and we can hopefully steal some of these gems away from them and then put them in our own jam. So I'm going to go from that bend on 12. Okay, now this next lick is just insane. He goes 12 G. So let's break that down a little bit. The first part feels like a minor pentatonic kind of thing. Like if you think of D minor pentatonic and you're kind of running up like that, he's starting on G up here. Then he goes to the minor third of D, which is F, and then right to this B. So even just that is a cool lick to steal. And then he goes to 12 of G again. And then the 11th fret, by the way, so he's going in just the span of a couple 16th notes. He's going from the minor third to the major third and just flowing effortlessly. Here it is again. And again, more that major sound at the end. It's unreal. Now, section 2 is what we're getting into next. This is where things get really spicy. So he is going to basically be outlining a G minor 7 and sometimes a G minor 6 arpeggio with this really cool cascading thing that we're going to get into here. So start out on the 10th fret of the A string and just outline a G minor 7. I like to start that arpeggio in this scenario with an upstroke because it's on a syncopated rhythm. Like that. So it's kind of like the same rhythm you'd use on It's Ice. And similarly, it kind of helps to start with an upstroke on that one as well. But let me not get sidetracked. So here it is again. 10, 13, 12, 10 to G. So that's just like a G minor 7. Okay, then we're going to start out the same way, but then it goes from there. Now I'm going to start with the down because it's on the downbeat. Go back to 12 of D. And then back to 12 of G. Here's what that sounds like, that last 2 measure run, a little sped up with the one that starts on the downbeat. Okay, now, you know how we kind of, well, actually, let me not move on because there's a lot of cool stuff there. So we saw this minor 7 arpeggio. That's kind of familiar. Now he weaves back, like I said. But then do you recognize this thing that he does right there? It's just another G minor. And then he goes back to the G on the 12th fret of G. He kind of outlines that same triad again, but now he does a minor 6 by going up to the note E. And then he walks down like that. From there, pick up on B flat, which is going to be on the 11th fret of B. Then we're going to do this really cool lick that's it's going to set up the end of this section that we're going to look at. He's going to play 13 of E and do a double pull off. Then he weaves from the B string back to the E string. Then chromatically walk down from 13 to B. And then another kind of weaving pattern where you go G string back to B string. And then check this thing out right here. That's such a cool lick in and of itself. So from this pull-off thing, from 13 of E, then 12 of A, then like a blues scale, 10 of E, then 12 of E hitting the octave. Now we're getting to the end of this section, and he's going to outline a G minor 6 arpeggio. So we start out like we had been doing, but instead of going to an F, we go to an E, then the 12th fret, let me do that again. That is just so authentic and creative and so Trey. Why don't I recap? Let me see. What's a good spot? I'm going to just do the last like 4 measures of this part. I think it kind of makes more sense put together from the pull-offs on 13 of high E. And then that gets us into the third section of this part of the jam. And this is really classic, almost like What's the Use kind of sounding. And it's more of like what he usually builds up to with a Taste jam. So we're going to do this slide to 10th fret from the 9th fret. That's the note A, which is the 5th of D. Then we go to the minor 6, which is the 11th fret. So let me do that a little sped up. Hopefully you see what I'm saying with that's more of like that familiar thing he usually builds up to in a Taste. Then he follows that up with this really cool lick that goes. And now we're going to get back to more of the theme that we started out with. So it's a lot like the beginning at that point. So let me go to the bend on 12th fret. And he holds that for the whole measure of 6/8. And then we're going to go back to a bend. Hitting the major third. You know, it's really interesting. We had this kind of sound that is very kind of Eastern when you have that major third and you have the almost like a harmonic minor, or it could be, you know, mixo flat 13 kind of thing, whatever way you want to go with it. Just really cool. But then he just effortlessly goes back to more of a Mixolydian sound with the B natural. So I just find that really interesting that he flows like that. Now picking up from there, we're going to start on the 10th fret of the B string. So that lick is the end of this section, which sets up the fourth and final section with there's all these pull-offs that are really cool. Let me recap the third section as a whole. Okay, then here we go with the last section. Now this is going to be really repetitive, but that repetition really builds up the kind of the pinnacle of this section, and it's going to be the same lick that happens over and over, but with little different kind of rhythmic variations. We're going to start with this 13th fret with the ring finger, and then we're going to pull off twice. So we're going to go. So that was 2 measures. Then he basically kind of doubles that. Then he does another 4 measures like that. So we're going to do 4 of those in each measure. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's another one. 3rd measure. 4th measure. Really, in total, there are 5 measures of that part, if you include the one before where I just started. And then he just ends with this really, really fast version of it where you just basically compress 5 of those things into one measure, and then he ends with a really big bend up to the note D. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And you just have to kind of play around with that to get his exact timing. He's in the heat of the moment and just kind of shredding at that point. All right, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that and got some little gems you can steal away for your own jams. And if you're still hanging with me, I really appreciate you spending the time, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.